scramble to adjust their positions based on the whims of the ruler. One day, something is the worst, and the next, it's the greatest. Those who don't adapt fast enough risk being cast out, or worse, publicly humiliated. It's reminiscent of Henry VIII, who went from being the Catholic Church's greatest defender to its most ruthless enemy simply because he wanted a divorce. Those who refused to follow his lead, like Thomas More, paid the ultimate price. The deeper danger here isn't just the spectacle, it's the real-world consequences. Cutting USAID funding means suffering and death for millions of the world's poorest people. On trade, Trump's obsession with Canada seems wildly misplaced. In 2024, fewer than 10% of migrant crossings happened at the Canadian border, and a mere 0.2% of fentanyl seizures occurred there. Meanwhile, America's trade deficit with Canada is much smaller than its deficit with China or Vietnam. In reality, if you exclude Canadian crude oil, the U.S. actually sells more to Canada than it buys. But beyond numbers, there's a larger issue: trust. By repeatedly targeting Canada, Trump is signaling that the U.S. is an unreliable ally. That's a dangerous message to send to close partners, and it's only pushing Canada to explore new economic relationships with countries like Britain and China. The biggest impact, however, is on American democracy itself. Historian Francis Fukuyama has described the modern era as a shift away from governments ruled by individual strongmen toward systems based on institutions, rules, and accountability. Yet, in the U.S. today, we're seeing a return to the old ways, where access to power is determined not by laws, but by loyalty to the leader. Decisions aren't made through careful debate, but through personal favors and political calculations. And this shift isn't just affecting allies, it's forcing them to rethink their futures. Countries that once saw the U.S. as a reliable partner are beginning to hedge their bets. South Korea, for example, is having more serious discussions about developing its own nuclear weapons. Other nations, like Colombia, are reconsidering their dependence on U.S. trade. They're looking at the chaos in Washington and realizing they need to start diversifying their economic and security ties. At the heart of it all is a question: what kind of leadership does the world need right now? One built on stability, cooperation, and thoughtful policy, or one driven by impulsive moves, constant reversals, and a desperate need for loyalty above all else? The answer to that question will define America's role on the global stage for years to come. And that question isn't just for world leaders, it's for the American people. Because this isn't just about foreign policy, tariffs, or aid programs. It's about whether the country continues down a path where decisions are made on impulse, where loyalty matters more than truth, and where policies shift based on personal grudges rather than national interests. The world is watching, and so are America's closest allies. When even friends like Canada and South Korea start looking for backup plans, that's a warning sign. Look at the situation in Gaza. Trump's announcement wasn't just reckless, it was dangerous. The idea that the U.S. could take over Gaza as if it were a real estate deal completely ignored the deep-rooted struggles of nationalism and identity in the region. Palestinians don't want handouts or relocation. They want a country of their own. And history has proven time and again that when people feel their identity is being erased, conflict follows. This kind of thinking isn't just flawed, it's explosive. Yet just like with the tariffs, Trump's team scrambled to spin it, only to walk it back later. This isn't strategy. This isn't four-dimensional chess. It's chaos. And it's happening again and again. The same cycle of big, shocking announcements, quick praise from loyalists, immediate backlash from reality, and then quiet reversals, until the next round starts. This isn't just bad for policy, it's bad for democracy. The more politics becomes a game of loyalty over logic, the more truth and accountability are lost. When facts no longer matter, when history is rewritten overnight, when even the closest allies are tossed aside on a whim, what's left? a system that functions less like a democracy and more like a personal empire. And that's not just about Trump. That's about the future of the United States. So where does this end? How many more times can allies be burned before they turn elsewhere? How much more chaos can the system take before it cracks? And how long before the American people say enough? If you care about these questions, if you care about truth, accountability, and the future of global leadership, then make sure you're staying informed. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going, because the world isn't waiting and neither should we.